the reality is that you mention the word Atlantis to somebody and they think you're nuts.
Right.
So I tend to use another term, which is a little bit more palatable, which is an ancient Atlantic culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely what we're finding here. Ode to Mikey. He used to call me Mikey. These simple thoughts, combined with our collective knowledge, will show the way to the golden age that was Atlantis. You have proof of hominids, humans, living in this area 200,000 years ago.
Right.
We have proof of the whole proof of coming out of Africa. That whole scenario has been dispelled. And I remember training legs with him. And that was always the most difficult thing, because training legs is like, oh my God. And I remember something he always said to me. He said, you wanna master training legs? He said, make training legs your favorite thing to do. I want to put out a big thank you and a big admiration to these incredible people that make this whole magic of cinema come together. This was the one camera that made me realize that I had at my disposal the quality that I needed to get things done on my own without anybody's permission. We're in the golden age of documentaries. I watch documentaries on cooking, on food, on travel, on archaeology, on Mars,
astronomy,
astronomy, aliens, whatever.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
We are sitting here with Mr. Michael Donnellan, the creator of Atlantica, the documentary series about Atlantis. We met him at the Cosmic Summit 2025, where they premiered a worldwide first-time premiere of the series, and we got to see it at Cosmic Summit. Welcome to the Multiverse, Michael. How's it going?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave, Brittany, Mike. Thank you. It's going well. It's going well. Everything is moving forward, as my father used to say, onwards and upwards. I really enjoyed the Cosmic Summit. I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting a bunch of people that I'd never met before, some who I'd wanted to meet for a long time, and that turned out to be terrific. And good for them. Hats off for starting a chain of events that could ultimately be very interesting.
Yeah, I really think the Cosmic Summit team is onto something. Everyone who went had a really good time. It sounds like you did as well. Who were the people that you were looking forward to meeting that you hadn't met before?
Well, I wanted to meet Randall Carlson like everybody else, Randall, and he turned out to be just the loveliest person. And but a bunch of other people, Robert Schock, I'd wanted to meet him for a long time. It was a pleasure to meet him. And some new faces I never expected to meet before. So there were certain people who, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Certain people who I'd never met before, who are doing their own series of discoveries all over the world. So it was, in that regard, really fascinating and really interesting. So I had it was terrific. I have to say, the whole thing, the way that the whole team put it together, George, Howard, and Stephanie, and all the rest of the people, and Beckett, and all the people that put their efforts together to make it work. It really came together.
Yeah, and they treated you well, did they?
Super well. I felt like I was treated very well. I was treated like a king. Everything went superbly well. There were moments of where I felt that I had to let the Scorpio out in me, where I had to fight for my points of view, and that was super. I loved it. So all in all, it was a wonderful experience, and I really appreciated every moment of it.
Yeah,
Dave and I felt the same way, and we enjoyed getting to meet you there and to see your film and to see so many other people, fascinating speakers, and then fans alike sitting next to other people who've been like, yeah, I'm following so-and-so's work. I'm fascinated by such and such, and you're right there in the same room together.
Yes. Super cool.
It was really exciting to do the premiere where we were all kind of waiting and no one had seen it before. We're all sitting there in the dark, you know, all the famous people all in the same room and stuff like that. And we're all waiting. And it was exciting, man. Were you excited?
Super excited. And it was interesting to see people's reactions. We've presented this in Spain and in Europe for the last 2 years.
Okay.
So people have an idea of what we've been doing for the last couple years, and here in Europe. And this was the first time that we got to present this thing in America. And in spite of excuse me, I've had a couple glasses of Coca-Cola. So
You're
good. But in terms of being able to present it to an American audience, that was very important to me. It was very important to us as a team, because there's no market like the American market.
Sure.
And being able to present it to an American market, you know, you could come out with a news article in Spain and you'll see it popping around in the rest of Europe, but that's it. But something comes out in America and you see it come out in the entire world. So it's a very different audience, and being able to present it, and I think people took it well.
Yeah.
I think it was exciting. I think there were a few people that walked out. And there was one guy that wrote, you know, I walked out after the first 30 minutes and I don't know what to think of it and this and that. And I'm like, well, you should have stayed to the end, motherfucker.
Right. Right.
You know, but that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. We come across that all the time. We come across people who have their own preconceived ideas of what ancient history was like, and other people who come with a fresh mind. You know, so I hope that what we show the world is something new. It's real. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what we've been doing here is genuinely real, and I hope the world will see it for that, because that's what it is.
And of course, we're referring to Atlantica, the new series, which Dave and I both thought the premiere was great. That was really sort of a combination of maybe the first few episodes, and we're also eager to watch the rest of the series ourselves. The camera footage, all the videography was top notch.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. It's been a lot of work. I've tried to make sure that we always stay true to the material, and there have been moments when we were wrong, when we made mistakes. That's part of investigation, the process of investigation. You make mistakes along the way, but you also have to recognize when you've done something well and you've done something right. And there's something here that merits the attention of the whole world, because what we are showing here is that there was an advanced civilization that existed here. A lot of times the word Atlantis scares people away. So I've learned to use better wording, which is an ancient Atlantic culture. And it happens to blend perfectly with what Plato said. Do I know what it is? Yeah, I have no doubt what it is. I have no doubt what it is. But in order to let people who don't know the theme so well assimilate this information, we have to be subtle about it. We have to say, look, guys, we are finding things here that are really and truly remarkable, never been discovered before, that belong to some crazy old time frame. And it's real. It's not invented. It's not some fiction of my imagination. It is a real thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that I really appreciated the human element of the documentary, because you really touched on, you know, your relationship with your friend and mentor who had passed away, and you know, I that was really heartfelt, and it brought a lot of it brought a human element into the documentary that I think landed really well for me, for sure. So I appreciated that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Yeah, Tim, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tim. Man, Tim was special. Tim was really special. I have hours and hours of footage of him. He was my best friend. And I would talk to him hours every day. I get bored and I would call him and I would be like, we would talk for hours on these subjects. And I'm really lucky to have met him, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Do you have an anecdote or like a story that really puts Tim into perspective for you? Or
I got it right here. It's funny you mention it. So he gave me this. This is one of the many copies I have of the Timaeus and Critias, which are Plato's texts. But this version is really a great version, because it's sort of a condensation of the two texts that Plato writes. And in here I have all these notes that I have of all the years of investigation. And I would write. I'm losing pieces on the floor, but I would write all my little notes in here. And at the very beginning, he writes a note to me. He says, "Ode to Mikey." He used to call me Mikey. These simple thoughts, combined with our collective knowledge, will show the way to the golden age that was Atlantis. My finds and your photographic skills will empower those who need to know the way forward back to greatness.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I like the simple thoughts part really landed with me, because sometimes we make things a little more complicated than they need to be, right?
So much. Oof. I'll give you an example of that. I had this meeting today. It was a freaking great meeting. but I was nervous about it. I was nervous about it for a couple days before this meeting, because we had organized this meeting a few days ago, and I was nervous about it because it was with one of our geologists. He's a wonderful guy, brilliant man, and knows more about the geology of this land more than anybody. And I was worried because at every point in our investigation, which is very broad, our investigation here is enormous. Nobody's ever done an investigation on this subject more than our team. Like, we really have, it's been 10 years of work. It's been a huge process. And so today I had this meeting, and I was so fucking nervous. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, I don't know, and they're gonna, and it was great. It was great. And during the meeting, we were showing different parts of our discovery. We're showing different proof points of what we found to a geologist who's a pure scientist, and I expected at any moment for things to just say, no, bro, you've been barking up the wrong tree. And it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't like that at all. It was the contrary. It was, what the heck? You guys have something really impressive here. And I realized at every moment, as difficult as it is to study these subjects, because, for example, if you look at a Roman temple somewhere in the world, look at a Roman temple and look at its state of deconstruction. Mm-hmm. That's only 2,000 years ago, and you go, wow, this structure is completely, totally in pieces. And you think, well, what would a structure that comes from the Chalcolithic period or before that, mm-hmm. how would that be? So totally in pieces. Mm-hmm. And the things that we're finding are relative to that mentality. They're totally in pieces. Mm-hmm. And the things that we're finding under the water are only visible because they've been protected by the water. Mm. So the only reason that we're seeing the things that we're seeing under the water today is because they've been out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Whereas everything else that comes from the same epoch that existed on the land has been torn apart, reused, recycled,
buried.
Yep. So it's a very, very difficult period of time to study because of that degeneration of natural occurrences. Yep. But what we're finding is real. It's real. Nobody can deny it. So
is that the period of time that you guys have nailed it down to, the Chalcolithic, or a little before that, or?
Before that, it's you have the 11,400, 11,600 year period, which is very, very bizarre, because when Plato describes this time frame, he's talking about a time frame that coincides with scientific evidence of the Younger Dryas period. And our friend Randall Carlson talks about that in depth.
Yep.
How can you make that up?
Right.
How can you make that up? You can't make that up.
No, it's too much evidence.
It's too much evidence. And there are people, including colleagues of mine, that say, well, maybe Plato had it wrong because, he was talking about a different time frame. And I don't think so. I think Plato had it right. Mm-hmm. I think there are details in his writings that coincide perfectly with things like the Younger Dryas period. And it makes you think something happened
Yep.
a long time ago. That's not that long ago, if you think about it. I mean, the Romans are right around the doorstep for us 10,000 years ago. Well, 10,000 years ago isn't that long ago either.
Yep.
In the grand scheme of things.
For sure.
And you think about various different facts that in this whole area where I live right now, you have proof of hominids, humans living in this area 200,000 years ago.
Right.
We have proof of the whole proof of coming out of Africa. That whole scenario has been dispelled. That has been totally dispelled. We have caves here that have hominids that date back to 40,000 years.
Wow.
We have caves in this province of Cadiz, the same province which Plato describes as being the area of Cadiz, which is Cadiz, where I live right now. And he talks about this great seaborne empire that ruled the Mediterranean, ruled the world, essentially, ruled the Mediterranean. But its capital city was here. And you realize that there are cave paintings right around the corner from my house that show paintings of not one ship, but a fleet of ships, meaning that thousands of years before we thought navigation existed, over here existed not only ships, but an industry of ship making, which means they had industry, which means they had writing, which means they had laws, which means it all coincides with this grand place that Plato spoke of.
And when the sea level was lower, that would have been exposed. That would have been the prime real estate on the subcontinent. It's everything geologically points in that direction.
There are only a few places, a handful of places around the world where humans lived comfortably all year round. We have this capacity as humans to conquer our environment. So when it's cold, we put jackets on. When it's hot, we take our jackets off. We have this incredible capacity through our strange physiology, which is very strange. We have no hair. Well, some of us are hairy. I got some hair on my back. but we're generally quite different from other species. We have no hair. And we walk on two legs. There was a wonderful anthropologist, a Belgian lady, and she did a series of extraordinary conferences, and she has since passed away. But her whole argument throughout her career was that the human beings, we have this total connection with water. Her whole argument was we don't have hair, we stand on two legs. The only times you see primates stand on two legs is when they're either carrying a baby or wading through water. So, or reaching for something. That's when you see primates stand on their two legs. But we take it to a whole new level. And her argument was that our interactions with water, and you take into account that 90% of human beings live next to a body of water, whether that's the ocean or whether it's a river or whether it's a lake, and they're all connected at the end. They're all connected. Means that one of the things that differentiates us from other beings is our relationship with water. And there's no difference with us and our relationship with this idea of Atlantis.
Right. Yeah.
We built our civilizations based on water. In our entire existence, the ancient highways were the water.
Right.
You would come in with a big boat filled with whatever, and you would unload it onto smaller boats, which would make their way into the rivers and into the towns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very integral part of who we are.
Yeah, we even have like a spiritual connection to water from ancient times all the way up to just me. When I'm at the ocean, I feel more connected to the universe and to myself,
Right?
and it's built into us in some way.
100%. 100%. 100%. And it brings me back to one critical point, which is this idea, boats are made out of wood normally, and wood decomposes, not always, depends on the circumstances, like the poles, the pylons that Venice was built on top of are called palafitos. And basically the ancient Venetians, and where does the word Venice come from? Phoenician.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenicians. So the ancient Venetians would gather tree trunks from alder wood, which is a type of wood that is resistant to water erosion, water putrefaction. And they would take these trunks of alder wood, and they would pile them into this lagoon, which is now Venice. And on top of that, they would build their cities. And those ancient wooden pylons would petrify in a short time, 1,000 years. They would turn to stone columns. And they knew this. How did they know that? Who taught them that?
Yep.
And this is thousands of years ago. It's all very curious. It
is. And it made me, and so you guys have been working on this for 10 years. You got to present it to an American audience for the first time in Greensboro, North Carolina at the Cosmic Summit in June this year, 2025. I really enjoyed the debate you guys had on, I think was it Monday or Sunday? I think it was Monday.
Was that in the morning when we were up on stage?
Correct. Yeah, with everyone else.
I had no filter that day.
You were kind of, it was you against, they were all, it was like you against
I was a little aggressive, and there's a reason behind that.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind that, but I'll tell you about it in a minute. Keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I wanted you to comment on the.
What were your thoughts on that?
My thoughts were that it was 4 or 5 against 1. I felt like because you were the guy presenting the new idea, people were taking shots, and that happens in this type of situation, right? They have their ideas and they have their opinions, and you're the new guy on the scene, so to speak, even though you've been doing this a long time. So I felt like you had to, stand up for yourself, right? You're not the type of guy who lets people take shots,
No, yeah. I'll give you an idea. A week ago, a week after I came back from North Carolina, I was invited to be a speaker, guest professor at the International University of Andalusia, which is a couple hours from here. And it was terrific. It was absolutely terrific with my dear friends, Pepe Orihuela and Manuel Pimentel, great friends of mine who are eminences in this field. These are high-level academics. Manuel Pimentel was a minister of labor in Spain, so he was a politician who decided at one point that he was going to dedicate his life to archaeology. He's an archaeologist and he's a historian, and has published many books, and we've become very good friends. So there's a community here in Spain of very high level academics that have been dedicating their work and their lives to this subject. Because, and there's one way that I've been preferring to refer to this, even though everybody knows as Atlantis. The reality is that you mention the word Atlantis to somebody and they think you're nuts.
Right.
So I tend to use another term, which is a little bit more palatable, which is an ancient Atlantic culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely what we're finding here. I want to call it Atlantis. Absolutely. Yes. But just in order to soften things for the general public, we can call it something else. That's totally fine. There's a huge difference. The conference that I had the other day or last week with my colleagues in Andalusia, they have all read these texts. They're all very cognizant of these writings. And the difference between the conference that we had in North Carolina and the conference that we had here was very big. There was a very big difference. How? You can tell immediately when somebody has read Plato or not. You can tell immediately when somebody has a concept of geography or not. Without getting into too many names, when somebody says that they think that Atlantis existed, but it was on the Easter Island or in Indonesia or in Bolivia, which I've also heard from a gentleman I spoke to who's been living in Bolivia for years, and he believes that Atlantis is under Lake Titicaca at 3,000 meters of altitude. In Bolivia, right away you wonder, have you actually fucking read? Sorry for my swear words, but have you read this book? Because it seems to me you might not have. And every time you say, well, when Plato says this and that, they go, no, Plato was wrong. Wait a minute, bro. You're saying Plato was wrong, but he's the guy that wrote the Bible on Atlantis. How can you say he's wrong? I'm not saying there aren't interesting things in Bolivia. For sure. I'm not saying there aren't interesting things in the Easter Islands. Absolutely. I can't wait to explore them in more detail. But if we want to stay pure and true to what Plato said, we have to take into account what he wrote. And there is nothing, I said this earlier today with my meeting with our geologists, there is every little detail that matters, because not every detail matters, but every detail that matters that Plato writes about regarding this ancient Atlantic culture fits into what we're discovering here. No doubt about it. There's not one detail that he talks about that makes you think, well, doesn't quite fit with this whole theme. Everything he writes about fits into what he talks about. Dave,
Sorry, you're muted, Dave.
Sorry, make a note of that, Brittany. What I find interesting, Michael, is that people are willing to dismiss Plato on this, yet he's considered an authority, if not the authority, on philosophy, epistemology, ethics, political philosophy, and all these different things. And then they're like, oh, but he got this date wrong. He got this one thing wrong. I think that's strange.
I think it's strange because if I hear that a lot, I hear, well, the timing wasn't right. Well, wait a minute. If you compare what he writes with geological records, it coincides.
I've heard the interpretation that Plato's story of Atlantis was meant as a metaphor to simply deliver
Sure.
a message to the population. So I guess they're on one end of the spectrum saying that it's all metaphorical in nature. And then there's sort of a sliding scale where it says, oh, let's open up the door to perhaps it was real. And then we have a wide open world, any continent, any time. And then on the other end of the spectrum where you're at is saying, okay, let's look back at exactly what he wrote and try to find what fits, assuming it was nonfiction.
Well, regarding that, it's a simple answer. The people that think it was allegorical, they have to keep in mind that Plato utilizes words, names, things, elements, mythological or not, that are way beyond his skill set, in the sense that he didn't invent some of these words. He didn't invent the word Cadiz in southern Spain. He didn't invent that. That was a well-known place in ancient Greece. The ancient Greeks knew that there was trade between these two parts of the European continent and the Mediterranean. They knew that. So when people say, here's part of the thing. The part of the thing was in the Critias and the Timaeus, there are obvious elements where Plato is bolstering the sense of pride for ancient Greeks, and he's bolstering this sense of the Greeks are the best, right? Which is 2,400 years ago, far later than Atlantis. However, we can dispel the notion that it was allegorical based on his use of etymology, his use of words, his use of names, and the details which he places are beyond questioning. He would have had to invent all of these words, including the word Atlantic Ocean, which he did not invent. So I think anybody who thinks that Plato's texts were allegorical needs to put themselves a little bit more within the writings and realize that he was talking about a real place. Plus, we have other clues that are outside of Plato's writings. For example, Mesoamerica, South America. There's a wonderful text, a wonderful paragraph in Plato's text where he says the capital of Atlantis was just outside of the Pillars of Hercules, from the Mediterranean exiting into the Atlantic, but in the region of Cadiz, which is where we live, but not as far as going to the opposite side of the grand ocean, where you reach the boundless continent. So check this out. When the conquistadors first arrived in America, they said, holy shit, Plato knew about this place. He was right. And that is why in Mesoamerica and South America, there are ample cities whose names are, for example, Mazatlan, Atlan. And those names were given way before the arrival of the Spaniards. And they had legends of the bearded white gods that came from the other side of the ocean. So it means that there was transcontinental trade occurring at that time. There are so many clues that negate that Plato just invented this thing. He didn't.
I think one of the good points you made earlier was that the history of hominids, of Homo sapiens, is so much further and further back than we traditionally attribute civilization. It would have been really easy to have civilizations 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years ago that the evidence would be so hard to find due to cataclysms that occurred.
Absolutely. It's like a great reset every time a cataclysm happens. There was today when I was talking to our geologist, Antonio Ramirez, he's eminence in this field. He knows more about this area than anybody.
Mhm.
And also the very well documented Juan Antonio Morales, who's a very well known, very well respected geologist, and all of the coinciding academic research that has been conducted in this area. I mean, we have hominid proof of hominid habitation here dating back 200,000 years, completely destroying this whole out of with all respect, out of Africa idea. That's rubbish. It's rubbish. There's complete documented proof of transcontinental, trans-Mediterranean ivory trade, not only in one type of elephant, but 3 types of elephant, including the Asian elephant, which shows that in prehistory, there was transcontinental trade, which means shipping, by the way, it means shipping, between Asia and Europe of ivory. These are things that are undeniable.
Yeah, and there's evidence of transatlantic trade. Just there's copper from Michigan found in Europe and stuff like that. For example, we just learned.
Kidding.
Yeah,
Really?
this is something new that somebody we interviewed is working on. So I'll send you the information so you can take a look at it.
Oh, I love it. Really?
Yeah, and so there's the more and more we peel back these layers, the more this stuff makes sense. Not the ancient traditions and stories and myths, like you mentioned from Mesoamerica about Viracocha and Quetzalcoatl, and then the timing of the Younger Dryas. All this stuff really lines up. And so I think we're living in exciting times, which is why, to bring it back to the debate, that was a really fun thing to watch, because it's kind of open season right now. And, I was thinking when I walked out of that debate and when we're driving home from the Cosmic Summit, I was thinking about the idea, and Mike and I were talking about it because we drove home together. And I wanted to know what you thought about it. What do you think about the idea of, and it sounds like this is what you were getting at, but that Atlantis was sort of the center of a global civilization that spread, like you said, through trade and whatnot, to places like Mesoamerica and stuff like that, and that we're going to find evidence of these civilizations, that civilization basically all over the world. Do you believe that it was a worldwide civilization?
Absolutely. Like when you hear about the 2 major continents, so to speak, that were destroyed, every single every single global mythology talks about this great cataclysm.
Yeah.
And the 2 most famous examples of this terrible catastrophe are Atlantis and Lemuria. So the gentleman that was there saying that he had found something in Indonesia regarding, and he thought it was Atlantis. I thought, well, that's it makes more sense if you say it was Lemuria, not Atlantis. But nevertheless, I think that we have ample proof points that there was something that was so bad that actually happened. And going back to considering the fact that the majority of humankind we live next to bodies of water. So in any catastrophic event that is seaborne, waterborne, we're all fucked. We're all totally fucked. So and every single mythology of the world talks about this thing. They talk about this terrible event that led us into a period of survival. And by the way, not to diverge too much on your question, but
No, you're good.
to add to that subject, one of the most incredible things that we have here in southern Spain, in Turkey, in India, in China, are caves. So people talk about cavemen as if they were our ancestors. I don't think cavemen were our ancestors. I think cavemen were the survivors. Imagine this moment that was so terrible. I like to think I'm a big proponent of a comet impact. Comet, not a meteorite, not a meteor, but a comet. And why a comet? Because a comet is a filthy snowball, right? What happens when you drop an ice cube into a glass of water? Well, it cools down until a little bit of time passes and it goes back to room temperature.
Yep.
Well, imagine this icy snowball, goddamn huge fucking thing, and it hits us with such power that it causes seismic shifts in the earth. It causes a series of terrible events, one after the other. And the poor bastards that survived this thing, where are they going? They're not going to be next to the water because they're terrified of the water. They just saw from the only people that survived this moment are living up in the mountains, and they see their whole coastline being chewed up and all of their ancestors being killed. And suddenly, imagine just for a minute, the weather changes. We know this from the Younger Dryas period. There was a period of about 1,300 years of terrible weather. What is terrible weather? Imagine hail balls the size of basketballs falling down from the sky. What are you going to do? You're going to try to carve out a living in a cave, because that's the only place where you're not going to hit by a fucking snowball.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what do we have here with the whole Sierra Nevada? Sierra is the mountainsides of this area. You have caves. There's a whole tradition of cave houses here. I'll get into that another time, but there are caves here, and you'll see not far from here in Almeria, you'll see there's an area where they used to make these spaghetti Western movies because it looks like the Grand Canyon, and that's a big clue. And you see this, you'll drive down this highway that goes down the side of this cliff edge in this canyon that looks just like the Grand Canyon, and you see 1, 2, 3 caves, like way hundreds of meters up on this cliff wall. You see 1, 2, 3, and then you drop down 20 meters and you see 1, 2, and then you drop down another 10 meters and you see 1, and then you see nothing. It's almost as if whoever built these sad little habitations in his poor little boat was in a boat or in a little raft that he made sketchingly in the water, and he dug out this cave to help his family and him survive. And then the water drops because it probably imagine a huge tsunami coming in and piling water up until God knows where.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden the water, the whatever's holding this lake of water in the breaks and suddenly goes down 20 meters. So he builds another 2 caves and then breaks again, and he builds another cave, and then suddenly he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. You know? So you have all these proof points of this terrible event that happened.
Yeah, there's lots of cave and cliff dwellings all through the southwest of the United States as well, and that goes towards what you're saying about like not being next to the water. So
where do those come from?
Yeah.
Another good point that you mentioned between Atlantis and Lemuria, and or the fact that multiple different cultures from different continents have similar cataclysmic mythologies. Atlantis and Lemuria, 2 sort of different, similar concepts to the story. Same with your point that multiple cultures from different places on the globe have similar cataclysmic mythologies. Are archaeologists in the future even going to be able to tell the difference in Detroit and Toronto, that they were part of 2 different nation states, or Lisbon and Madrid? we don't know if we were dealing with city-states, nation-states. There were probably different factions, different cultures, different nations across the globe at that time.
That's a wonderful point, and it's something I was talking about this afternoon. There's a dilemma that we face as investigators. It's a dilemma that we face as archaeologists and geologists, is one simply strange phenomenon. When I started flying drones, before, this was 10 years ago, this was just before I started flying drones for archaeological purposes. The reason I got into drone flying was because it was the first time that if I wanted to get an aerial view, I didn't have to hire a helicopter. It's like 20 grand a day. And so I started flying drones, and DJI came out with these drones, and I was so excited because it was this opened a whole new world of possibilities to filmmakers. And then all of a sudden, I met my business partners with archaeological work, and I started to use drones for surveying archaeological sites. And suddenly something flipped in my head, because one day I was out in a field, and we had gone out to a location because we had with satellite imagery, we had seen that there was a field that had some structures in it, and we wanted to get a closer look, right? So I went to this place, and you go out, everything looks pretty normal. It's a normal field. And all of a sudden you throw your drone up, and I've got my goggles on, and I realized something very fucking interesting, which was that the Earth, the globe we live on, is a living being. Whether you like to look at it like that or not, it's a living being.
Yes.
It's something goes on. It's like your skin. And you realize that the Earth, like your skin, when you have a scar, it heals itself. It makes a little scar, where something used to be. Like when you cut yourself, there's something, it scars itself. And so I started to notice that the Earth has this strange way, like skin, like human skin, to heal itself. And the point of what I'm making is that the only things look at a Roman temple. A Roman temple is already in ruins, and that's only 2,000 years old. Imagine something that's 10,000 years old. If it hasn't been recycled or destroyed or completely churned up by nature, or you're lucky to see anything that resembles human construction after 10,000 years. So, for example, the pyramids, we're lucky that we're able to see them. The only reason we're able to see them, if you've been to Giza, is because they're so big.
Right.
They're so fucking big that nobody was able to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of the Giza Plateau, wow, it's pretty fucking devastated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, with regards to the battle that we're trying to play here, the battle that we're fighting is with these levels of antiquity, is to be able to say, what can we see that's that old? And the only reason that we're able to find what we're finding under the water that is from the same age, from 10,000 or 12,000 years ago, is that they've been hidden under the water for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason we're finding these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they would be gone.
Yeah.
So the further back we go in time, the harder it will be for us to discern between what is man-made and what is geological, because the Earth will absorb it.
Yeah.
However, there is one thing that we have at our disposal today that we have never had before.
Mm-hmm.
We have, between academic research and technological advances, we have at our disposal more than ever before tools that allow us to see things that we would never have thought possible even 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Drones,
Yep.
satellites, LiDAR, multi-axis echo sounder, even scuba diving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dive master. How long has scuba diving been around? Not that long.
Right.
50 years. Drones, 10 years.
Scuba diving, that's a subtle but profound thing. Without that technology, you're not going very far down into any underwater exploration at all.
My God. Unbelievable. It's true. It's true. I had this wonderful experience when I was a kid. I went to high school in Abu Dhabi in the 90s.
Wow.
And one night, my father was very excited. He said, listen, my parents were always involved with diplomatic circles in the Emirates. And they said, listen, we've been invited to see a conference with a very famous man. My father was so excited because my father was a real adventurer. He was a sailor and he was a retired Air Force pilot. He was a real man's man. My father was the greatest guy. And he goes, there's this guy I've been enthralled with him my whole life. His name is Thor Heyerdahl. Now, Thor Heyerdahl was a legend. It was like Jacques Cousteau.
Mm-hmm.
And he proved that people could sail across the ocean in a raft effectively. And I remember seeing this guy and going, man, this guy's so fucking cool. What a man's man, this guy. Wow. And I had the chance to meet him first person. And now you look up Thor Heyerdahl and he's a legend. He's a legend.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, man, the world, we need more people like this guy, you know, to inspire the people that come after us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, take bold steps, right? For everything
else. Let's go. Let's do it. Don't be stuck behind your chair, scratching your ass and thinking what could have been when you can do.
Yes.
When you can do, then do it. You're obliged to do it. You know?
Thank you for taking us back to that little meeting. That's a really good moment because that undoubtedly is inspiration that you carry with you to this day. But you brought us back to that was high school age. What are some of the things that transpired in between high school age and then the incredible film producer we know today? What was the journey like getting back into it?
It was curious. My parents were both American. My mom was from New Orleans. My father was from San Francisco. And they had met in California. They both went to the University of San Francisco. They had left America right before I was born. My two older sisters were born in California, and I was the only one who was born in Europe. I was born in Paris. The story was kind of funny because my parents had been living, my father had been working in a U.S. military base in Germany in a small town called Schwäbisch Gmünd. And my mother was pregnant with me, and she got all upset one night and called the lady who's now my godmother, who's a wonderful woman, Anne Leclerc, and she's from Paris, and she said, I don't want to have a baby born in a place called Schwäbisch Gmünd. and so she said, well, come to Paris and he can be born here. So they all crammed into this little Volkswagen camper and made their way to Paris, and I was born in Paris. And shortly after, we moved to Italy, and I was raised in Italy and the Italian part of Switzerland. Then we moved to England, and then we moved to Abu Dhabi. So it was all based on my parents' contracts. So it was usually about 4 or 5 years in each country. But Italy was always the place that that attracted them the most. And Italy, to this day, I grew up in Italy, and Italian is my first language, even though I'm American. And so for me, Italy is my country as much as America is. And then I went to university in Athens by total coincidence. I never thought I would study. I studied archaeology there because what else are you going to study when you're in Greece, you know? At the same time, I was partying every night. Greece. It was freaking awesome. But that memory of having studied archaeology always stuck with me. And I had the wonderful opportunity to go and study places like Akrotiri in Santorini. And it was magical. It instilled in me this love of ancient history. Plus, I grew up with the Indiana Jones era. And then I ended up moving to Berkeley, where I finished my studies totally different in architecture and biology. And then I moved to Southern California, where I started, because I'm an artist. I don't know if you guys know that, but I started my career in special effects because I'm a sculptor. So I became a visual effects supervisor, and I worked in film. I also martial arts my whole life. Here, I'll show you. Here.
This is great. So when in Rome, do as the Romans. Right?
This is one of my black belts.
What martial arts do you practice? I'm a martial artist myself.
This is Kyokushin karate.
Okay.
Where I got my first. I'm second dan in that. I also studied and practiced jiu-jitsu for many years.
Yeah, same.
I had my ears drained a few times. And throughout those years, it forms character in your life. It forms who you are. It forms what you become. And to be honest with you, I was getting a little tired of Hollywood. It's a shitty fucking place.
You mean the culture or the culture? Like
the industry.
The industry, yeah, right. That's what I was.
It's a dirty place, and I'll be just honest. Have you seen any great movies lately?
No, it's something I think about all the time because I'm a big movie guy. Mike is not, but I have DVDs of like all my favorite movies, and none of them came out after 2002.
DVDs.
Yeah.
DVDs.
Yeah.
That's a sign right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a long time ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, things have changed so much.
It's been a while. And when I started to get into documentaries, and I thought, man, this is the way of the future. I think this is the age of documentaries, and I've been seeing the world of cinema declining, and I've been seeing the world of documentaries going up.
Yes,
because there's so many, and you can see. I was watching a documentary the other day of a friend of mine, Brian. He had a wonderful documentary on Mars.
Oh, Brian Corey Dobbs.
Oh, he's wonderful.
He's a friend of ours too. Yeah,
dude, what a
movie.
What a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I got a great friend of mine, David. He's our manager. He's done a wonderful documentary on a musician here in Andalusia, and I just see the world of documentaries as being. We're in the golden age of documentaries. Watch documentaries on cooking, on food, on travel, on archaeology, on Mars,
astronomy,
astronomy, aliens, whatever.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It is.
So I see the world as we know it in terms of media. Documentaries are magic. Magic. They instill this sense of wonder
They do.
Hope, hope. And we lack hope today.
Yeah, they do. I've been getting sense of wonder from documentaries since I was a little kid watching on TV. Mike's getting sick of hearing about this, but I first saw Robert Schoch's documentary
Yes.
and John Anthony West, The Mystery of the Sphinx. That's what
magic.
started it all for me. And nowadays, you just go on YouTube or there's any other platform, and there's just anything you want to learn about, you can, and that's the best part. And you can tell a human story at the same time. It doesn't have to be just like you did with your Atlantica. It doesn't just have to be like information. Like people used to think of documentaries as, just dry and slow information that they're going to show you in school. Well, that's different now. It's different now. People, so different. You can tell the human story at the same time. And it's cool because you can learn about anything you want now.
Anything. You watch one documentary on something you never thought you'd watch. Mm-hmm. And suddenly you go, fuck, I like that. And suddenly you look up 12 other documentaries that are related to that. And you go, I never knew this existed. It's so exciting. It's really cool. And the thing about documentaries, which I love, is that they are accessible to the common public. Mm-hmm. There was a time, I like to think, to be honest with you, I know that what you see here seems like a small studio, but in this small studio, mm-hmm. I have better equipment than I had in my high-end studio working with Disney in Los Angeles, in Burbank. I have the only things I don't have, which I don't really need, is for example, motion capture kit. I don't really need motion capture right now, but everything else I have way better. I've got all the top drones that ever existed. I have all the top equipment that ever existed. And I find myself, for the first time ever in my career, I remember when I started my work years ago, the cameras that we were filming with were 35 millimeter Panavision, the god of cameras. To this day, the greatest camera ever made, 35 millimeter Panavision. Then red cameras came out, and we had access to digital cameras that had high-end 35 millimeter look, but they were digital. And all of a sudden, I've got these Sony cameras and these Hasselblad cameras that are top-notch, and they cost a fraction of the price. But more importantly, I can carry them with me out in the field without dying of exhaustion because they weigh 500 pounds. Yeah. And I can go film this stuff and throw up my drone, film these things in a way that I couldn't have done 10 years ago. It's magic. Movie magic.
It's cool how you brought up a sense of wonder and awe with regards to documentaries. And I can tell you have that passion when you're getting that footage and making it. A lot of people, when they hear Disney and Hollywood, they think, oh, that's where all the wonder and awe is coming from. Well, you were there. You were inside there. And you're here to report that it wasn't so.
my first 5 years, I worked at 20th Century Fox. It was a wonderful experience. I loved working there. And the people I worked with were terrific people. And then when I worked with Disney, which was through Mod Studios in Burbank, I think it was right around that time I worked on a couple different films. One of them was a fun film called National Treasure, which incidentally is archaeological. Another movie I worked on was called, it was a great book, but not the best movie. It was called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it was, I don't know. I just feel as if these big companies have been, and I don't want to criticize them because I used to work with them. So I want to be as fair as possible, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a lack of ideas, or I don't know if it's a lack of, I have my own opinions on what it is, but I don't know. I just think it's become money before intelligence.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the creativity seems to be lost. I don't know
Faulty.
where it's gone. You think about movies from the 80s and 90s, and they were so creative with the technology that they had.
Yes.
And nowadays we have all this amazing technology and no
Nothing.
creativity. I went to the movies a few weeks ago to see this F1 movie with Brad Pitt. Very good,
How
by the
was
way.
it? I
Very
want to watch it.
it was awesome, man. Especially if
Wow.
you go to the IMAX, it's like
That's
you're in
one
the
I want to watch.
Oh my god, it's awesome.
Wow.
It's really
Wow.
totally worth it. It's like
Good,
the
good,
sounds and the
good.
sights and everything like that.
Love Brad Pitt.
It made me happy. It felt like a real cinema experience that I've been lacking. But
Ah, well done.
the point that I wanted to make was that when I went to with the out of the five trailers they showed, three were remakes of movies that had already been made. I remember thinking when I was about 8 years old, like I remember thinking to myself, had this random thought, like, what if they run out of ideas for movies to make? And it seems like they have, but I don't think they have. I think that just the
Yeah.
creativity has been
A
lost.
bottleneck or something.
Something.
So
So
how many more superhero movies do you have
Oh my
to
gosh,
make?
yeah.
For Christ's sakes, man.
Yes.
I mean, I loved when the first Iron Man,
Yes,
the
The
awesome.
first
original, yeah, those
Transformers.
three, those were
The
good.
Oh,
first X-Men was good. Yeah.
I worked on the first X-Men.
Oh, did you? What?
That was yeah, those were one of my first movies working with 20th Century Fox.
So when you worked with these the movies, National Treasure, X-Men, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I must say is a favorite book of mine that I lent to
Great
Mike,
movie, terrible.
who read the
A
book.
great film, terrible movie.
The movie I was able to enjoy, but I see why people didn't like it. But when you're working on these films, what was your role? Like, what exactly was it that you were doing?
It depends, because when I first started at 20th Century Fox, I was a junior artist.
Okay.
So I was just non-credited. I was doing posters. I was doing the first project I worked on at 20th Century Fox. I remember because Alex Kelly was the director of new media at 20th Century Fox. He was a friend of my family's, and I went in. He said, "What are you doing tomorrow? Come in. We'll interview you." And the next day, the very same day, I got a job. And I remember that I went into this office, and the lady who was working there pulls out this box of VHS tapes, and she said, "Have you seen the X-Files?" And I said, "Of course, I've seen the X-Files."
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, you're going to start working on this tomorrow." And she gives me this box of VHS tapes, and she says, "Watch them all." And so I watched them all, and I worked on X-Files for it was already like the last season. They'd already filmed it, and so I was. But when these films come out, they keep going for several months or years, pushing stuff out. And then shortly after, there was we were working on publicity work for marketing work for one of my favorite movies ever, which is Fight Club, which had already came out. But I was working on marketing material for that.
Wow.
And then X-Men started, and then Moulin Rouge. So we worked on these different movies, and it was super exciting for me because I was able to add these things to my resume. And then I worked my way up from being a graphic artist to an animator, because I came from the world of sculpture. So I was a sculptor. And then I went from that to being a visual effects supervisor, which is the position of being like the director of visual effects.
Okay.
And in that moment, particularly, I was working on motion capture and animation. So that's where my world of not only artistry but also martial arts came in, because a lot of times I would dress up in these suits with these little dots on them.
Right. Yeah.
And I would be like out in the middle of doing these different things.
Right. You have to be very
and
familiar with movement and stuff like that. To have be very specific with your movements while you're doing that to capture that stuff.
100%. So that's how I kind of grew into it. And then filmmaking was always at the forefront of our work. However, like I said earlier, the only time you ever really had a chance to go in and use really good cameras was when you were in the studio, because there was no drone, there were no camera equipment like we have today. And so the only times I really got to have hands-on experience with the high-end cameras was when I was at work. And then drones came out. That changed everything. Suddenly I was like, I don't have handcuffs on anymore.
Yes, you can fly.
I'm free. I can fly. And boy, did I begin to fly. Man,
awesome.
Changed
So
everything.
One key piece of technology, it really put that whole studio and put little wings on it and put it in your back pocket.
Totally. In fact, this little beauty right here, this was my Sony AS7 II. Now I have the A7S3 and I have a bunch of other ones, and I have a bunch of Hasselblads, but this was the one camera that made me realize that I had at my disposal the quality that I needed to get things done on my own without anybody's permission. Good times. Actually, here's a fun one. Look at this one. This was I call it the cyborg chicken.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
This here is still to this day one of my favorite cameras in the world. A 4K Osmo #1. And this camera was so freaking cool. And now I just use it as decoration in my studio.
I must say, Brittany's watching right now, and she's drooling because she's a professional photographer, and she's seeing all this stuff, and she's commenting in our notes right now, saying this is a lot of fun for Brittany. Was there a favorite project in Hollywood that you worked on? You mentioned Fight Club and a bunch of other big ones. Was there one that like meant the most to you, maybe because the team and the people you were working with were really good, or you got really tight with people?
That's a good question. Have you been to LA?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to live in San Diego, well, in Oceanside actually, but
well, it's funny because I'm when I say I'm from California, I always say I'm from Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm between LA and even though I lived in LA many years, most of my time living in Southern California was in Orange County, between San Diego and.
Yep, been there many times.
I don't want to be super critical, but LA is such a fake place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to answer your question, there are people who I met who are phenomenal. However, it's such a place that is consumed by ego.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you have a lot of people, you're constantly battling egos, and so it's hard to find genuine people.
Right.
And on that same note, and I'll go back to the positive, so I'll get rid of the negative first. On that same note, I remember working with a bunch of people whom, in retrospect, I realize had no business being in that industry. And yet they were my boss for that moment. Mm-hmm. And so they pulled off this, I'm this great whatever. And without it getting into names, there were a lot of those. There were a lot of people who just shouldn't even fucking be in that industry. They should go work in a kitchen somewhere scrubbing floors, you know. However, I'm very lucky because I met a few people in my career there who were really great at what they did. And even though I have to say, and I will give myself credit when credit is due, the majority of what I learned on my own. I learned on my own. And there were no schools of special effects or animation back then. And so what I learned was through hard work and perseverance. However, there are a handful of people who I know there, like my dear friend Colin Smith, who's one of my best friends in the world. And Colin is the guy that got me into drones. He's the guy that got me into a lot of post-production stuff that I do. There are people that I met there that really, a lot of people, when they think of film, they think of the big names, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and my hat goes off to Brad Pitt and to Tom Cruise because they're fantastic people.
Sure.
And I had the opportunity to meet some of these guys that are just famous in their field, who are eminences. They're wonderful and they need to be recognized. But a lot of people forget that a great part of the magic of what happens in film are people that the world never sees. They're very quiet guys and girls that are so brilliant, and they sit behind their computer and they make magic happen. And a lot of times their names only appear for a flash, but those are the real magic behind Hollywood. These visual effects animators, these artists, these people that make props, and they make costumes, and they make backdrops for films and sets. These guys, these people, these women are the real magicians behind the curtain, and they were hardly ever recognized. In fact, they weren't only not recognized; a lot of times they were badly treated. And I coming from that world, I want to put out a big thank you and a big admiration to these incredible people that make this whole magic of cinema come together.
I really like that answer, Michael, because it really does highlight, the people. And I love people. That's why I keep bringing them back into the conversation. But it really does highlight the people who don't get the recognition that, and I think I'm a military guy. I was in the military for 8 years, and it makes me think of that.
Military, our friends in the military.
It's similar in the military, where in the movies and the TV and stuff, you hear about these special operator guys, and they're awesome, right? They're the best of the best, but they wouldn't have equipment or like a place to live or food or anything like that without the other people in the military who don't get all the credit, right?
It's incredible that you bring that up, man. And I want to just here, I'm just going to bring this here because our friends in the military, these are mine. Our friends in the military, they are the backbone. They are the backbone of our country.
Yes,
they're the backbone of our country, and we need to appreciate them. We need to appreciate them and what they do for who we are, and their selflessness. So I'm very grateful for what you just said. Very grateful.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to show that in most situations, the people who get the credit, and sometimes in many cases well deserved, there's so many things going on behind the scenes. I bet you could even relate that to archaeology. Like, you've got a team of people that you work with that and so that's really cool. I wanted to ask you, because I'm a somewhat of a martial artist myself. I wanted to ask about martial arts. How did you get into it? And did you ever compete in karate or jiu-jitsu? I'd like to hear about that.
All right. So that's a good question. So when I was a kid, we moved from Italy, or the Italian part of Switzerland, with Lugano, which is Italian, and we moved to England, and the contrast was tremendous. I went from having loads of friends in Italy, everybody's peaceful and loving, Italians. Hey, how are you doing? I love you. I love you. Everybody loves each other. To England, which I got to tell you was big ass fucking shock, man. And England was difficult, to say the least. I love England now because I'm an adult. But as a kid, moving to England was very difficult. And I was a very small kid. I'm 6'5" now. I was not 6'5" then, and I grew very late.
I can't picture that.
Man, I was a little kid. And bullying was a daily part of my life. And every single day, man, anybody who grew up in England will tell you how rough England can be. And England was very, very rough. And I remember I had a very, well, you're gonna get me into some emotional waters here.
That's what our show's about, my friend.
Man, I had a very fantastic childhood. My parents were incredible people, and they did their best to raise us with an extraordinary experience, which we did have, and we lived in a bunch of different places. And part of that comes with being able to learn about other cultures and learn other languages. And it's thanks to my incredible parents and my incredible family that we were able to have these diverse experiences. England was very difficult for me. It was late 80s, early 90s. And I went to English boarding school, and I was in 3 different schools in 5 years. And every single goddamn day I was in a fight because I didn't have to have a different color skin. I just had a different accent. And for them, it was like, yeah, you fucking Yank, you think you're fucking well-odd. Come on then, after school, let's go. You know, that was my daily routine.
Man.
And I didn't grow height-wise until I was 16, which we'd already moved to Abu Dhabi at that point. But every single freaking day I was in a fight. And I remember walking home from school, taking the bus home, and walking down this alleyway, and there was always these kids that were always fucking with me, man. And I was such a little kid, and I was and I was a very sensitive kid. And man, these kids would just bug me, man. Every day they would just pick on me. And I remember one day I got home from school, and I was about 11 years old. And I would tell him, I would come home crying, you know. I'd be like, Dad. And my dad was a top boxer, great boxer. And I'd say, Dad, these kids are always, you know. And a lot of parents would say, no. My father was like, tomorrow, when you see this kid, you sock him as hard as you fucking can in the fucking throat. And I was terrified because I was thinking, what? And I did. And I remember there was this one kid, and he was way bigger than I was. And at the time I was also playing rugby. So I grew up playing rugby, which was totally out of place for me because I was so small. And I remember my father, how he taught me. It was like 1, 2, boom, 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 boom. And I socked this kid so good, man, he never messed with me again, ever. And then I started to get into martial arts proper. So the first thing was my father teaching me how to box. And then we moved to Abu Dhabi. And in Abu Dhabi, first thing I wanted to do was get into martial arts. And I went out looking for, this is actually kind of a funny story. I went out looking for, this was way before UFC, or I mean, right around the time when UFC, but I didn't, this
so
was
early 90s or mid 90s.
Early 90s. And so I enrolled myself in this school of Shidokan, which is a part of Kyokushinkai karate, which is full contact karate.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you see K1 or any of the karate practitioners in the UFC come from Kyokushinkai. This is Kyokushin.
Like,
that's what I come from.
Like Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy Thompson.
Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy, or oh, what's his name? A famous
Brazilian guy, yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah. I know the guy you're talking about. I'm brain farting on him. I'll find
great fighter. It'll come to me. Anyway,
I met that guy.
He's super cool. He's super cool. And so I pursued that, and I got my black belt, and I won the world championship in Abu Dhabi, which incidentally became, now Abu Dhabi is one of the forefront places in the world where they do martial arts. The same people who I trained with, who I studied with, are the people who set that up. So then right around 1994, 95, I remember our coach comes in and he says, listen, we're getting a lot of attention for these mixed martial art tournaments that are coming out. So we're going to start incorporating grappling with our karate. And so we started incorporating jiu-jitsu with our stand-up, which our stand-up was very similar to Muay Thai. So a lot of what we do is very similar to Muay Thai. So I win a world championship twice. And the first time I won it, I was a brown belt. And I win this tournament, and I remember it was you had to fight 3 times in a day. So it was a very competitive thing. You had to fight once. If you win, you fight another one. If you win, you fight a third one. And then, so I win. Now, this is right around the time I'm moving to go to college, to go to university. So suddenly, fast forward a couple years, I'm in California. I arrive in California, and I think to myself, well, I'm going to look up and see if there's a Shidokan Kyokushinkai school, Kyokushin school in America, in California. Turns out there's nothing in California. There's a school in Chicago and one in Florida. So they invite me to compete in K1, which is a big tournament.
Oh, yeah.
A big
watched
tournament.
A lot of that.
So they invite me to compete in K1. This is like 97, 98. And they also, the head of Shidokan, whose name is Kancho, Shueno Kancho. And they tell me, well, if you want to open a school, because I had a black belt and I just won a major tournament, they said, well, maybe you can open a school in California. So right around that time, I'm in Northern California. I was living in Berkeley, and my uncle lived in San Jose area, and they tell me they go meet with this guy whose name is Javier Mendez.
Oh yeah, wow.
AKA American Kickboxing
Academy, yeah.
And I go down there, the guy's super nice, lovely guy. And I go, fuck, he's got a great setup over here. And everything was poised for me to go into K1 and open a school, martial arts school in California. And I thought, this could be a future path for me. I get a job working at 20th Century Fox, and I left it all behind.
It was a big opportunity either way. Either one of those would have taken your full devotion and attention to become the headmaster at a dojo to open your. I mean, that would have been no time for both.
That's it.
You know what? Too, it would have been probably a lot harder on your body. Your body would be in a lot worse shape now than if you had have went down that path. But it's really cool story because you were kind of there at the beginning of jiu-jitsu coming into California with the Gracies. It was Lyoto Machida, by the way.
Lyoto Machida.
I should have said that.
Yeah. It's Lyoto Machida.
That's it.
And you like now they do some of the biggest MMA events in the world in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE. So you were there at the
I
beginning of
was
that
there.
as well.
I was there.
Yeah. And
Strange
Javier,
story, huh? I never
Yeah.
talked about this. This is the first time I talk about it.
I'm really happy you're talking about it on the show because I'm a big martial arts fan and I did Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And Javier Mendez, he's one of the goats of coaching.
Goat.
And so, I
Goat.
mean, he coached
Lovely guy.
Daniel
Lovely
Cormier,
guy.
and Khabib,
Man.
Islam,
Yep.
Luke Rockhold.
Yeah.
All these guys are champions.
Yeah.
Frank Penn, Frank Shamrock, BJ Penn. He coached all
Fuck
those
yes.
guys. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that you kind of you met him back when he was just starting out.
And I was there. If I think about it, before, right? I mean, this was a turning point.
Yeah,
It was a turning point.
martial arts changed forever.
I probably would have got my ass kicked, but it would have been fun anyway, you know. I was pretty good. I have to be honest. I was pretty good. There were certain things I really, really was good at. And one of those things was stand up. I mean, on my feet, also on the ground, I was pretty good. But in terms of, I have good length.
Yes,
You know, I'm 6'5" and I got a real reach.
Yeah.
And also the fact that I was generally a skinny guy. I was competing as probably a light heavyweight because I was 205. But I had the dimensions of a heavyweight.
Well, that's like John Jones. He's got the dimensions of a heavyweight, but he's skinnier and he's got length. And that's really the best frame for mixed martial arts is tall and long.
Tall and lengthy.
And that's why John Jones is one of the greatest of all time. And so, yeah, I can imagine
Who are your three favorites?
My three favorites are my three greatest of all time because that's different.
Your three favorites and your three favorites of all time. Okay.
So my three favorites of all time are George St. Pierre.
My favorite ever.
Yes, yeah, very cool, very cool. He's top,
my favorite
I think,
ever
for me. My next favorite, who literally just retired on Saturday, had his retirement fight, was Dustin Poirier.
I love Dustin Poirier. Talk about a man that proved himself.
Yes, correct.
And the only man who almost choked out Khabib.
Yes, and he almost beat Islam as well. So
yes, no joke.
He's fought literally everyone. He beat Max Holloway twice. So he lost to him on Saturday night in a great fight. It was a retirement fight.
Great fight.
This is a guy who he got the best send off I've seen in MMA history because and that's how highly respected the guy was, and he's right up there with George St. Pierre for me. And then my third favorite is Jose Aldo. I love Jose Aldo for his stand-up. Yeah,
great fighter. Great
fighter for his stand-up. Super great guy for his community. Everyone loves him.
Absolutely.
My greatest of all times, my GOATs go George St. Pierre, John Jones.
Yes, me too.
And then number three is difficult.
Difficult.
It is difficult to put a number three in there. I sometimes consider Daniel Cormier because he only lost to John Jones and he was a double champion.
Yep.
There's a lot of ways you can go with number three, but one and two are pretty easy.
Yeah. I have some strange favorites.
Let's hear it.
For example, one of my all-time favorites, just because he was so fucking cool and unexpected, was Roy Nelson.
Oh yeah. He was fun.
You know, I love seeing a guy that puts his heart and soul and he knocks fuckers out left and right.
Yeah, and he doesn't look like an MMA fighter. He had a beer belly and stuff.
Oh man.
He could move.
Man, that guy was nuts.
Yeah.
Other guys who I really liked, just for their tenacity, are guys like Clay Guida.
Yes, I met him in person too.
Did you?
In Minneapolis?
Man,
yeah, I saw him in an arcade.
My hat off to him. You know, that guy was just a brawler.
Yes.
The Diaz brothers.
Yes.
Nate Diaz, man, I love that guy. I hated him when he started, huh?
Yeah, same. He was annoying at first, but he grew on me.
He was annoying. Oh my God! And you know what? I always love being proved wrong.
Yes.
You know, I love it when you start and you want, and you're like, who the fuck is this guy? I think he is. And then you go, he's the man. He's the man. Nate Diaz is the man.
Well, he is, because he lives by a moral code, and it goes it's in his personal life, and it's in how he fights, and he's not fake. He's not faking it. That's why Dustin Poirier is likable too. So the people who are being real, and this goes in any industry, but you were talking about that in Hollywood. It was so many people were being fake, right? It goes in any industry, but in fighting, you know, the ones I respect the most are the real people. You know, like
totally.
They're not trying to put on a show. They're trying to put on a show, but they're not trying to be someone they're not.
100%. That's a real fighter. It shows in the heart, it shows in their mind, and it shows in their fists. Man, I love that. John Jones for me is the number one.
Yeah.
However, really for me, George St. Pierre is number one. It doesn't. His losses mean nothing. His losses actually, in my opinion, add to the champion that he is and always will be. George St. Pierre for me is the greatest fighter. Well, if we were talking about great, look at Mike Tyson in his prime.
Right. Yeah, he was the scariest guy of all time. Yeah.
Oh man, Mike Tyson for me. Oh man.
Yeah.
What do you think about these new boxers?
Well, I just saw that. What's his name there? Who's the heavyweight champion? Just fought on Saturday.
Dubois?
Well, Dubois just got knocked out on Saturday by I can't brain farting on his name. The Ukrainian guy.
Usyk.
Usyk. Yeah, so Usyk is working on GOAT status right now.
I love him.
He's only got 26 fights, but he's beat like all these champions twice.
Bro,
he's cleaned out the heavyweight division.
I love cruiserweight. He's awesome.
He's not even a heavyweight; he's a cruiserweight, and so the heavyweight division compared to the '90s is just not even close to the same thing.
No way.
Like I think all these guys, Tyson and Holyfield, all these guys would have destroyed everyone in the heavyweight division nowadays.
I have to agree. Yeah.
But Usyk is fun. The British guy, the Gypsy King, he's a fun fighter to watch.
You gotta love him.
Yeah, he's a character.
You gotta love him.
I was rooting for him against Usyk.
He's a great promoter for the sport. You know, I don't know. It's kind of curious. You got these different characters. They're all kind of cool. Yeah, the boxing world is so different from the MMA world because it's so driven by these mafia-like characters.
Yes.
You know, and so you have these. It's very different. Whereas MMA is very corporation oriented. So it's like, you know, here's the next. It's like waiting for a train. This is the next train that's coming along. You jump on it, you catch the train, and you get to your destination. With the boxing world, it's kind of like these mafia producers coming together and they're blowing things out of proportion. But it's also fun.
It is fun.
Also fun. You know, you can't deny it. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to have been to a bunch of UFC events. I just went to a recent one. And I wanted to bring this guy up because he's one of those guys you mentioned that like proves himself and kind of grows on you after a while. But Kamaru Usman, I got to see him fight in Atlanta last month, and he's older. He's got no knees, but he beat a young up and coming fighter. And I didn't like him at first either. I thought he was.
I didn't either, and I like him now more than ever.
Yeah,
he's a really nice fucking guy. Yes. He's a really nice guy. And when I first saw him, I was like I'm not a huge Adesanya fan.
No, me neither.
He just I always see this guy that's posing. He's posing.
He's faking. He's a faker.
He's faking. He's always like, bro, where'd you get your accent from? First of all, you're from New Zealand, aren't you? You know, he's trying to sound like a hood rat from Compton. You know, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. When I saw Kamaru Usman for the first time, I thought he kind of grinded me the same way.
Yes.
But he isn't.
He grown into himself. He's not faking like he used to be.
And when I see him being interviewed, he genuinely seems like a really nice guy.
Now, yeah. Before though, he would have this fake persona going on. And
Yeah,
I think he let that go at some
yeah,
point, and then he became likable because he's got some claims to the at least the 170 goat. It's
for
GSP
sure.
and him. He's the next guy at
He's the next
welterweight, the
guy.
next best guy. So
He's very, very, very apt for that role.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, it's interesting. Fucking A.
Yeah.
What other fighters you like?
Well, I love Max Holloway, and
Yeah, me
I
too.
didn't know who I wanted. I mean, Poirier's the guy who he's my favorite fighter, so I wanted him to win. But this
I
new,
like Gaethje. I like
yeah,
Gaethje
I
also.
love Gaethje too. He's really
He's
fun.
cool. He's a lovely guy and a fucking badass.
It's the guys who go in there and they're all about fighting and they're not
Give it
about
their
doing the other
whole.
stuff. Like Gaethje's not. He's never been. Gaethje's probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC. Number one. And
Yeah.
number two, he doesn't do that. He hates the media part. He does all he cares about is this. He's not married. He doesn't have kids. I don't even think he has a dog. He just trains constantly, and he's super dedicated.
Super dedicated.
Martial arts is one of those things that takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes all that stuff. And I was wondering. I wanted to ask to kind of get back into the animation and the archaeology part. With this background in martial arts, did you take some of that discipline and then apply it to these then animation and then getting into archaeology again?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The first thing I would ever do if I have kids is put them in martial arts. First thing I'll do. And especially as an artistic type person, which I am, we need a discipline because otherwise I'll sleep in all afternoon.
Right.
Well, I hate mornings, I'm a night person. Martial arts are a foundation for life. The first thing I would do is put my kids in martial arts. And I'm not putting everything on in terms of discipline as a child on martial arts, but a great deal. Absolutely. It taught me how to have confidence in myself. It taught me how to start a job and finish it. That's very important. It taught me about being able to confront the world with confidence and say, hey, I put my foot down here when needed. It taught me about respect for other people. Because right when you think you're a Billy badass and you meet somebody who will tell you you are not a Billy badass, and you realize, fuck, I got some way to learn here. And that's wonderful because you learn and you get better at something. And suddenly you realize what you were weak at. I got a wonderful friend of mine, one of my best friends in the world, Pierre van der Westhuizen. He's a brother to me. And he was a champion bodybuilder. And he's still a bodybuilder in his 50s. I remember when I was such a skinny pile of turd when I moved to California, and I just wanted to get bulk up, and I went into World's Gym in Lake Forest, and I walk in and I see on my left, I see Dorian Yates pushing weights, and I see
Wow.
I see Flex Wheeler over there, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm like a little kid,
Right.
And I meet Pierre, and I remember the first time I saw him, he was doing bend over rows with 4 45-pound plates on each side, and he was doing it like it was nothing. And I'm looking at him, and I weighed about 145 pounds at 6'4" at the time, 6'5", and I remember I was just so excited to be in the gym, and I start talking to him, and he goes, "You want to start training with me? We start tomorrow. You never miss a fucking day, or we're done." I didn't miss a day for years, and I put on 60 pounds naturally without any goodies. I put on 60 pounds in a year working out with him. And I remember training legs with him. And that was always the most difficult thing, because
It
training legs is like, oh my God. And I remember something he always said to me. He said, you wanna master training legs? He said, make training legs your favorite thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I fucking hate it. And he goes, yeah,
Right.
yes, you hate it now. Make it your favorite thing to do. And I started training legs, and really I started to get what he was saying. It took a few months. It took a few months.
Oh yeah.
But then I would be like, yeah, boom, boom, boom.
Ugh.
And you start noticing everything changed after that.
Mhm.
Your whole body started to get bigger. And I went from 145 to 225 in 2 years.
The legs make a big difference,
Man.
and it's a different experience, but it boosts your testosterone because you're training the largest muscle groups in your body, and so
Totally.
you do have to force yourself to do it for a while until
It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not, and most people don't enjoy it. So you see these dudes walking around who are like, you know, big up here, and then they got tiny little legs, right? And it's you see that a lot. But training legs is something I'm teaching one of my neighbor's kids to do right now. I got him doing squats and deadlifts in the garage, and he's 14, so he's gonna be a beast. Because you can imagine if you did it when you started when you were 14.
Oh, bro,
yeah, he's gonna be huge.
unbelievable. Well done, you, man. Because I'll tell you right now, for me, my favorite day is leg day.
Yeah,
It's leg day, because you'll never feel that same. You always put as much as you can into every workout, but training legs. And right now, I'm a skinny fart. I had heart failure last year.
Yeah.
I had heart failure, and when I came back from North Carolina, I was coughing up blood, and I have a pulmonary embolism.
Did
So
that
right
just
now,
happen? That just
happened. And
Yeah.
I'm as skinny as I feel skinny. I feel withered, but it's okay. I'll let myself heal.
Yeah.
And I'm generally a skinny, tall, lean guy. And so when I don't train, I get skinny. When I train, boom, within 2 weeks, you notice it. But that's okay. That's okay.
You need the time off.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not trying to win the Olympic Games.
Right.
It turns out that my heart problem was I have the same thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger have. I have a bicuspid valve instead of a tricuspid valve. Normally, we have a tricuspid valve, which are like 3 little valves, and they go tutum, 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 tutum. In my case, I was born with a defective valve, so I have 2 valves, which gives the propensity for your blood to flow back the other way. What did I know? It turns out that it explained a lot of reasons for which for example, I hated running. There were certain things in my life that I never did well. Running, I hated it. I really took a lot out of me to go long distance. I could do as long as it was a calm, comfortable. But sprinting, I am a slow ass motherfucker. That's why I had to learn how to fight, because I couldn't run away from a fight. I had to fight back. But we're faced with the challenges that we're faced with. I have heart failure, which means every day is a blessing for me, because I don't know when I might go. And that puts into great perspective the work that I'm doing. The work that my team is doing, our wonderful divers. I'm going to do a shout out now, if you don't mind.
Please.
Rafa, Boris, Tete, Luis, our scanning partners, Alejandro and Sergio from Prisma. These guys, my great brother and my best friends, Elio and Chris and Andrea, and these are people that have helped me go through this thing and believe in what we're doing, because tomorrow I might be gone, and I have to accept that, and I do accept it. And what I have to realize is the work we're doing right now, more than anything, has a value that will echo through eternity far longer than myself.
Yes.
So we have a duty in this world. If you can and you have the ability, then you should do it. Don't sit aside pretending that the world is going to feed you a fucking spoon of sugar. It's not. Life sucks. life is full of shitty conflicts. You know, that's just the way it is. You got to man up and be a fucking man and do things for your family, do things for the world. That's it, man. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Thanks for the heartfelt shout out, and appreciate the hard work for all the team that you've got, because you got a tremendous team behind you. And I like,
and most of all, my dear friend Tim and my father. Without them, I wouldn't be here. And my dear colleague Nora, right here, Nora, my dear darling Nora here, who without her, she was a wonderful woman. She passed away last year, 2 years ago, with cancer. So it's a realization that time is fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, and with that solid foundation, you can start to build a wonderful house on top of that firm foundation. That's the important thing.
Bravo. And my darling mother. I can't forget you, my darling mother, and my darling father. Yep. Anyway.
You had mentioned when the paths diverge, you were either going to open a dojo or go work in Hollywood, and you went to work in Hollywood. But you mentioned one time you put on the suit, the dot suit, and you were able to stand in front of the green screen for motion capture. So I have to ask, in an upcoming episode of Atlantica, is there any motion capture martial artistry in a later episode?
Hadouken!
Yes. Good old Street Fighter.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Mortal Kombat?
I have, yeah.
It looks pretty cool.
It actually looks pretty good. Yeah.
I like Carl Urban. He's cool, man. He's cool. Will I show up doing martial arts? I'll tell you. Between diving and climbing into caves, and I don't think I need to be doing too many martial arts.
Yeah.
I think no, I think what I do is pushing the limits of I'll tell you something, with my heart problem, they were talking about, man, they even talked about doing a transplant, which really bothered me.
Oh, no.
No, but the last time I went in, I go in for checkups every month. Mm-hmm. And not too long ago, and I have to assume that these doctors probably give the same spiel to every patient that has the same condition.
Yes, they do.
But if you think about it, there's probably a great percentage that are old men or old women that have, so they're probably giving the same spiel to people that are in totally different categories.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were talking about implanting, it's not a pacemaker, but it's called the defibrillator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like a pacemaker. And what it does is, if your heart, because I get arrhythmia a lot, I get it every day, where my heart, it goes like ta-tum, ta-tum, and you start getting a little dizzy, and then it goes back to normal. So hopefully,
yeah.
So a defibrillator is this little battery under your chest, under your skin, and in the event that you have this almost a cardiac arrest, it shocks your heart and it starts up again. However, diving is a big part of my life. I'm a professional diver. I'm a dive master. I've been diving 40 years. 30 years. And it's like telling a chef, because the second I put this thing in, I can't dive anymore. Out of the question. And it's like telling a chef you're going to cut their tongue out. Bro, and so I've managed to postpone that, because the last checkup that I had a few months ago, they put me on a treadmill and a breathing apparatus, and I was back in the gym training, so I felt good, and the exam went, as they say in Spanish, de puta madre. It went super well. So they said, okay, we don't have to implant anything so far. So I still have some diving left in me. However, how much, I don't know. Not much more diving. And especially after coming back from North Carolina and having had pulmonary embolism, which I didn't even know can happen from a long flight. I didn't know that.
I was wondering if it was because of the flight.
Or diving. I thought it was from diving. No,
I thought it was a combination of the two that reason why it happened to you, but I was just speculating.
I thought it was also from TRT because I'm on TRT,
Mm-hmm.
low doses. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, maybe that's causing it. No, it was from the flight. It was from the flight.
And probably you have a genetic predisposition to it, right?
100%. So I don't know about martial arts, but maybe when I'm out in the field, I'll be like, ah!
Yeah, it's a good way to tie all those ends together because that was a great, it's a great combination.
Oh man, it's been so far a wonderful pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're
Thanks
welcome
for joining us today. It's
Thank
great
you.
to get to know you in a little more detail. It was so socially overwhelming at Cosmic Summit. Everybody was meeting everybody every day, and you just sort of do your best to remember everybody's name. This was really fun to sit down and chat, hear your whole story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And sorry I canceled last week because I was all over the map.
Well, you're just recovering from a pulmonary embolism, so we forgive you, and we really appreciate your time today. You gave us a couple hours of your time, and we're really grateful for that. I wanted to just ask, just to transition, so we looked at the it's Ingenio, the website that has Atlantica on it. When does the first 3 episodes become available in the United States for us? And like, what's next for the project?
Good question. We get asked this all the time. So we're in distribution right now. We have a fairly good idea of where it's going to be. It's going to be released. However, we are in negotiations, and so I don't want to say exactly what it is until we have it sure. Part of the conundrum is that this must be released internationally. It has to be. So if we release it through a Spanish network, it'll only go through what are called territories. So you have the Spanish territory means Spain and South America. American territory is the top territory because America, whatever comes out in America comes out in the rest of the world.
Right.
So what we're doing now is 2 things. The first thing is greatest possible viewership imaginable. So we want the whole world to be able to see this because it is important. The world has to see what we're doing. It's a really important project. And the second thing is continuation. So we have 2, 3, 4 more seasons coming out. So as soon as I know for sure, I'll let you guys know. We'll do another podcast.
Absolutely.
That would be great. We were doing that for Brian Corey Dobbs because he's coming out on Amazon. So
have you seen it? His documentary.
We've seen it already, but we're doing another show with him because he's officially going to be on Amazon in I think 2 weeks.
He's awesome. He's such a cool guy, man. I love Brian. He's a lovely human being. He's badass. And what he's done is terrific, absolutely terrific. And I remember it's funny because I talked to him about this and I saw his documentary last week. And I remember having seen a documentary about Mars and about this electric plasma discharge theory years ago. And I remember thinking, why the fuck have we not seen more about this? And when I met him and we hit it off right from the beginning, I was shooting ideas around. I was like, and he's like, you got to see my documentary. You got to see my documentary. You have to see it. And so I saw it and I was like, thank God somebody's carrying this on. And he really augmented on the subject. He really expanded on it.
Correct.
It's really fascinating and the world has to see it. It's terrific.
It's really well done, and he really put everything he had into it. And it takes a concept. You got to be brave to do that subject, I think, because there's a lot of people that might, poo-poo it just because it seems a bit out there. But there's evidence and anomalies and all kinds of stuff that needs to be looked at. And Brian's really passionate about that. So it's really fun to have him as part of our multiverse crew. And we want to thank you, Michael, for joining the multiverse as well. We really appreciate it, man.
Mike, Dave, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure seeing you guys. And I hope I've been able to contribute a little bit to this wonderful project of yours. Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna come next year. I don't know if you're.
Actually, I just got a message today from George Howard. He wants to come visit me here in Spain. So hopefully, not only I'll see him soon, but hopefully I'll be back in North Carolina next year.
We'd love to have you back in North Carolina next year. The Cosmic Summit's just going to get bigger and bigger. We're big supporters of it here. We do a series. We did a series this year called Cosmic Mondays, where we interviewed 9 people from the summit, including Randall and Danny Hillman and different guys like that. So maybe next year you can be in our Cosmic Mondays series that we do to promote the event. And
count on me.
Perfect. Sounds good. I just wanted to mention Brittany once because she's a big fan of yours as well. She's our producer in the background.
She's fantastic. And thank you, Brittany, for having put me in touch with the whole podcast today. She's fantastic, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and end. Hang tight real quick.
Okay.